Hello everyone, DarkOfAllTrades here. Today, we're going to have a bit of a longer video from a channel called PonderPoints. 1 hour ago. This channel doesn't have much content up with a grand total of 2 videos and 95 subscribers as of writing this, though this video does boast an impressive 12,000 views. This video is titled, Proof Against Atheism (new) in brackets. Now I'm not sure what the new in brackets means here. Do they mean new atheism? Or do they mean that the proof is new? Are they just saying that this is a new version of the video? Well, I watched all of 12 seconds so far. The very first thing you see when you play the video is a Surgeon General type warning to try watching this whole video before going to the comments. Maybe there are spoilers? Maybe this is a fake video? I don't know. I haven't seen past 12 seconds. So let's dive right in.
Hi everyone, this is a proof against atheism. For this video, I'm going to define atheism as not believing in anything supernatural.
I hard disagree with this. Atheism strictly deals with the claim about the existence of a god, and that is it. There's nothing saying that an atheist can't believe in ghosts or the healing power of crystals, though I'm not entirely against this meaning, as if that is how they want to describe it, I'll try to proceed with the video with that context. They can define theist as a small furry creature that hides nuts in your wood. If that is what they mean by this term, that is how we will use it for the purpose of this video. Though, how much do you want to bet that they're going to change the definition somewhere in the video? If they don't, I will fully admit it at the end. Though I didn't see this at first, it wasn't up right away, but they have something like this at the bottom of the screen. Or my playback bar just got in the way, so I didn't see it very well. Oh well, let's just move on.
So only believing in the physical world.
So you're conflating atheism and materialism or physicalism. We already have words for these meanings. Throwing out another prediction that this guy is going to talk about minds and whether they are physical/material or not. Let's see.
Try giving this a chance. I think it'll be worth it.
I said I will be the judge of that.
To be specific, I'm going to prove that the average atheist has unknowingly 2 contradicting beliefs.
Oh, okay. I don't really care about what beliefs the average atheist holds. I care about what is true and exists in reality. But okay, if you think it'll be worth it to hear you out, I will.
Belief 1 is something that everyone can agree on, that you have a stream of consciousness.
A stream of consciousness is described as, quote, a person's thought and conscious reactions to events perceived as a continuous flow. The term was introduced by William James in his Principles of Psychology, 1890, end quote. The Wikipedia entry on stream of consciousness states, quote, the stream of consciousness is a metaphor describing how thoughts seem to flow through the conscious mind, end quote. By no definition that I could find is the stream of consciousness aligned with, you will experience your body tomorrow. If anyone has a source on this, I am interested. I hope that this is just what he wants to use to simplify what he means. But now we're at dangerously close territory to word manipulation. If he is simply redefining words to fit into his narrative, I'm going to be quite dismayed.
As in, you will experience future events.
This is also not quite accurate. We don't know that everyone will experience future events. People die every second. Some go very suddenly to the point where their consciousness does not experience that event happening. But okay, through inductive reasoning, we can conclude that we will likely experience future events. I still don't agree that the experiencing of future events is the same as stream of consciousness. But let's just move on.
Pretty non-controversial. Belief 2 is atheism, or some people call it materialism. The belief that nothing supernatural exists, only the physical world.
Remember, we agreed to this meaning from the onset, though I don't see the connection just yet, but as I stated earlier, it seems like it's going to be the same argument as the mind isn't physical, but only the physical exists, and you agree that we have a mind, so you are holding 2 contradictory beliefs. Only in this case, replace mind with stream of consciousness.
I'm going to prove that these 2 beliefs contradict each other. And as long as we still agree with belief 1, we have effectively proven that atheism is wrong and the supernatural exists.
Now hang on a moment. We really should get a clear meaning for the term supernatural in this case. Generally, this means something like what Encyclopedia Britannica says, quote, things that cannot be explained by science and seem to involve ghosts, spirits, magic, etc., end quote. If atheism is the belief that nothing supernatural exists, then you prove that there is something not physical or material, then you haven't shown anything that we can conclude is supernatural, just not physical or material. Things like abstract concepts are not physical. Some think that thoughts are not physical. I'm not sure I agree. Emergent properties themselves can be non-physical. Is kindness a physical thing? How about charisma? Is that physical? It very much seems like you're trying to slip the supernatural in by trying to disprove physicalism. This is not a dichotomy. It isn't physicalism is true or the supernatural exists. There are other options. But again, let's see where you go. I am less and less excited for this the more I watch. For now, let's just go with the assumption that when he says supernatural, he means not physical or material, or something not encompassed by the physical or material world.
First, I will give two implications of atheism/materialism to help us understand it. Next, I will ask two questions to help establish that you do indeed believe you have a stream of consciousness, and that you do believe you will experience a future body.
Is this something like the afterlife? I didn't catch this at first, but it seems like he hinted very heavily that it is just a body and not necessarily the same body you have now.
Lastly, I will ask question 3, which is the proof that will prove that these two beliefs contradict each other, that a stream of consciousness denies atheism/materialism. At the end of question 3, you'll be forced to admit that atheism is wrong.
What, like at gunpoint? Are you going to come over to my house and hold me hostage until I admit atheism is wrong? Good luck with that, buddy. I'm a cartoon character. That won't work on me.
So what are these two aspects/implications of atheism/materialism? To help explain things, imagine these blocks are molecules or particles in the universe. The first aspect is that it does not matter if I swap the position of two molecules in the world, given that they have identical properties. Assuming that they have identical properties, swapping these two molecules should have no effect on the universe. Let me say this again. If the before and after picture are physically the exact same, and we only believe in the physical world existing, then by definition, swapping these molecules had no impact on the world.
I can get behind this. If you have the exact same properties as the thing you replace, it shouldn't make a difference, right? A single water molecule will be virtually identical to another water molecule. Of course, this must be on a scale where we can know that they are actually identical. 1 cup of water from a lake is not the exact same as any other cup of water.
Aspect 2. Temporarily deconstructing anything into its molecular components, then reassembling it back together, does not directly have any long-term impacts on the object/being.
What? I was with you as I thought you were just referring to basic molecules or objects. Outside of the external effects you have of breaking bonds, breaking molecular bonds absorbs energy while making new bonds releases energy, with the overall chemical reaction being endothermic or exothermic. It also depends on how this is done. Though maybe I'm overthinking this. If you take one water molecule and split it safely into 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom, then recombine them, you'll get the same molecule of water. Sure. However, this is not necessarily the case for things that have emergent properties. For example, if you take apart the internet and try to put it back together, you may have the same internet in and of itself, but you have disrupted processes that cause massive changes. Just like where I think you're going with this. If you take apart something that requires a constant internal or external influence in order to function, such as an electric current, then you are making a physical change that disrupts the process, meaning that if you physically reassemble it, the process was already interrupted, and things are not the same. It was the interruption of the process due to the physical change that changed the original object. These objects are contingent on these processes not being interrupted. Living things are the same way. Beings require that certain processes are not interrupted. Again, I was with you for the most part, but you tried to sneak in that word being here, and I can't let you get away with that. As an aside, your qualifier of long-term is suspicious as well.
If the object is physically the exact same, with or without deconstruction/reconstruction, then there is no impact.
This neglects a number of things. As I just stated, the interruption of processes that the object is contingent on could have an impact. This also assumes that breaking the bonds that hold it together has no impact as well. The process of breaking things apart and reassembling things require energy. If we assume those issues don't exist, then sure. but I have a feeling you're just going to ignore that they exist anyway.
So now that we've established atheism/materialism, let's establish that you have a stream of consciousness, and you will indeed experience a future body.
I didn't really want to get into this before because this is an incredibly complicated topic. There are criticisms of the idea that we have a stream of consciousness, and I'll go over them if I feel it's necessary, but otherwise I will generally accept the psychological meaning of stream of consciousness, but not yours just yet. Let's see what you got.
Question 1. Here on Earth, if I reveal to you that as we speak, there coincidentally exists a person with your exact molecular structure on an alien planet, whose body are you currently experiencing?
Any being outside of myself will necessarily have different experiences than I do, but maybe that's where you're going. So let me answer this directly. I am experiencing my physical body here on this planet and not the alien planet. According to BBC Science Focus, quote, neuroscientists have found that the things that happen to you change the physical structure of your brain, end quote. A link for this is in the description. The moment I experience something different from the other being, we cease to be physically the same. So, the mere act of me thinking about this question, or the fact that I heard you ask it, changes the physical structure of my brain. What you are necessarily putting forth here in this hypothetical is that two separate beings had the exact same genetics and the exact same experiences from birth until now. The question is silly because, in your premise, you have already separated me from that other being.
Who would you rather not get shot tomorrow?
Okay, this is an introduction of a very new element. This may also be a bad question to put forth to someone who suffers from depression, so I would say neither of us? If you're forcing one of us to, then survival instincts dictate that I would prefer to not get shot over the other being, but so would they if we are molecularly the same. Of course, this is assuming that I'm not willing to be self-sacrificing. That could be the case. But again, for the sake of your hypothetical, I would rather not get shot.
Whose bed will you wake up in tomorrow?
Thanks to the laws of physics, I know for the purpose of your hypothetical, I will wake up in my bed tomorrow. Consciousness is an emergent property of the brain. The brain is a physical thing. Therefore, we have no reason to suspect that it was even possible that my consciousness would move from one being to another.
Think about it for a second. Correct. You will be looking out of your own earthly body tomorrow. Pretty easy. Tomorrow when you wake up, you're going to be looking at your own bed. What goes on in alien planets does not affect you. You would probably prefer that this random clone dies over yourself.
Thank you for the validation. My physical being doesn't change if there are the same number of the same type of molecules in a different location arranged in the same configuration. One molecule of water is still the same no matter how many other identical molecules of water exist.
Question 2. Pretty much the same question. Today, here on Earth, if I told you that tomorrow, on some alien planet, a scientist will coincidentally build another person with your exact molecular structure.
Well, the molecular structure doesn't take into account experiences. My brain is shaped in the way it is through my experiences. This being does not have this natural process. We do not have evidence to suggest that if the brain is the exact same physically, then it would necessarily react the same way, nor would it have the same memories. And again, the moment it became aware of its surroundings, we would immediately be physically different.
Who would you rather not get shot tomorrow?
Again, assuming everything I already brought up, for the sake of your hypothetical, I would rather not get shot tomorrow over a clone.
Whose bed will you wake up in next week?
Well, that depends on how I play my cards at the bar, winky face. In all seriousness, in this case, it will be my bet again for the same reasons as before.
And remember, we're asking current you. This is before the clone is made, so there's only one person to ask. Earth you.
Yeah, that wouldn't change anything for the sake of this hypothetical. Whether it has been made already or not, this clone would be a separate being from me.
The answer should be, you wake up in your own Earth bed. You would prefer that this random clone gets shot over yourself in the future. What goes on in alien planets does not affect you. If this isn't your answer, allow me to expand on question 2. If I told you that tomorrow you will get to eat the best food ever and you're going to get $1 billion, just take a second to picture yourself eating your favorite food tomorrow, just imagine savoring that taste. You would be pretty excited. Now, would you be equally excited if I instead told you that someone on an alien planet far, far away with your exact molecular structure was going to be built tomorrow and get these luxuries instead?
Yeah, I got it. I will be more excited for good things to happen to me than if they happen to a separate being.
No, you're not going to be as excited, because you're not going to be the one experiencing it. Unless you on Earth equally anticipate getting to eat that food in both scenarios, you admit that your consciousness is in a specific body. You acknowledge that there's a specific body you will experience in the future.
Okay, assuming I'm alive next week, I will be in roughly the same body I am now, just a week older, and with any other changes that happen to it in the meantime.
Alright, now that we've established that you do indeed have a stream of consciousness and will experience a future body,
We did, if you mean, if I'm alive, I will not be experiencing things from a different body, then sure. We accept that consciousness is an emergent property of a physical thing. I am granting meanings that are not generally accepted or even expressed anywhere else for the sake of this point.
and we've also laid out the two aspects of atheism/materialism, now we can do question 3. This is the important one. This one will prove atheism can't be true. It will prove that these two past ideas contradict. Question 3. Okay, imagine we were to do an experiment tomorrow. This will be you. One by one, I replace all of your molecules with new ones of the same properties. And then I put all of your old molecules back together, creating a second body.
This is something I've really been enjoying. This is a thought experiment called the ship of Theseus. It is a way of examining identity. The underlying point is, if you have a wooden ship and you replace a board, it is generally agreed that you still have the same ship for all intents and purposes. However, if you keep replacing boards one at a time, how many boards can you replace until you no longer have the same ship? If you take all of the boards you replaced one by one and build a new ship out of them, which one is the original ship? My answer to this is that by replacing one board, it's still the same ship, just with a replaced board. That replaced board becomes part of the ship's identity, and the old board is no longer part of the ship's identity. It can be a former part, but building a ship out of the former parts of a different ship does not make it the same ship. We put the label on the whole, irrespective of the individual pieces.
Which body would you prefer I not shoot?
Well, this one is easy. Simply assembling a body out of molecules, as we saw in Fullmetal Alchemist, does not mean you have also added the processes required to sustain, or in this case, begin its life. Therefore, the second body would not be a living being like myself, so shoot the dead body over the living one. If you magically gave it life for the sake of your hypothetical, we are still separate beings, so that's still not me. Because again, the moment it became aware of its situation, it becomes physically different.
Which one are you looking out of?
The same one I was looking out of before. Assuming you are magic, and when you replace the molecules in my brain one at a time, the new molecules integrated with the rest of my brain, and they became my brain as a whole. For every single molecule, this happened. I retained my identity irrespective of how many molecules you replaced, and the old molecules you removed are former parts of my whole being, which you assembled into a new being that's not actually me.
Whose bed do you wake up in tomorrow? You were able to choose a body in previous questions. Choose one here. And remember, the experiment hasn't happened yet, so there's only one person to ask at the moment.
All of the answers are still the exact same as before.
Now here's the great thing. Any answer to this question accepts that you disagree with atheism and you acknowledge the supernatural exists.
What? No. Well, I guess I would have to for the fact that you took me apart, replacing molecule by molecule, and then reassembled those pieces into another being that had its own consciousness. That would at least imply the supernatural, or at least some very advanced technology. But that part alone means that I don't need to accept the supernatural as I understand it, because it could just be a technology I don't understand. But go on, explain yourself.
There are 0 logically coherent answers that will allow you to believe materialism and believe you have a stream of consciousness.
What about, I don't know? That would be logically coherent and still allow all previous beliefs on these two things to be maintained. However, these are not connected specifically. I can agree that we have a physical body and that we perceive things due to consciousness being an emergent property of the brain, assuming we're alive tomorrow. Still physical, no supernatural required. Again, assuming by supernatural you mean not physical or not an aspect of something physical/material. That is, unless you're asserting that consciousness is supernatural. My ability to perceive things nor the source of my perception doesn't change in any of these situations. You're going to need a lot to back this claim up.
If you say you're looking at the new matter body, then you disagree with aspect number 2 of materialism. This is because you believe that your consciousness is no longer in your old matter.
Just the opposite, actually. The consciousness never left the old being as the new matter was applied to the old being, including at the time when the new matter was all that the old being was made from. When you remove a piece from the old being and replace it, the old being integrates the new piece into itself. The old material then ceases to be part of what the old being requires for the emergent property of consciousness to form. Consciousness would be interrupted if you take too many molecules from the old being. Therefore, the old being is simply made of new material. The old material does not incorporate consciousness due to the fact that you have not introduced the process on which consciousness is contingent. If there were no emergent properties, your argument might make sense, but since there are, this doesn't work.
If we redo the scenario, but the new matter didn't exist, and your body was instead swapped out with air, then you simply believe the act of deconstructing and reconstructing the old matter caused you to permanently die.
Taking people apart and replacing their very important molecules with air does tend to cause people to die. I can't argue with that point. Again, and hopefully for the last time, by deconstructing a being, you interrupt processes required for it to maintain its functioning. No matter how much you try to put the molecules back together, the processes have already been interrupted. You need something else external to restart those processes.
You disagree with materialism.
No, I don't. You interrupted a process contingent on the materials retaining their physical aspects. That is what caused the problem. Again, you smuggled in a being for this idea.
If you say that you're looking at the old matter body, then you disagree with aspect number 1 of materialism. This is because you believe that your consciousness is not in the new matter. If we redo the scenario, but we never reconstruct the old matter, then you believe simply the act of swapping out your molecules with identical ones caused you to permanently die.
I'm not saying it again. It doesn't matter which being the person thinks the consciousness is in.
You disagree with materialism. You believe the supernatural exists. I call this the molecular doppelganger dilemma. Regardless of your answer, you disagree with atheism. That's because all of the answers disagree with atheism. This is not a matter of I don't know. It's a matter of there is no possible outcomes that agree with atheism.
So if I accepted your premises, then sure. However, I don't accept your premises here, again due to the existence of emergent properties.
This is because atheism and consciousness never went together well in the first place.
Called it. He is basically assuming that consciousness is not a physical aspect. Buddy, you need to look into emergent properties a bit more if you have at all.
You must accept that the supernatural exists. Atheism is wrong.
Nope, I reject your premises and your wording. Not material is not the same as not natural.
Religion hasn't answered question 3.
I was waiting for this to show up. I thought this was going to be entirely philosophical, but that questionable meaning of atheism really makes sense now. Who cares if religion has an answer? Religion, especially Christianity, has a wrong answer to a lot of things. But I don't want to dismiss you out of hand like that, so let's see your terrible logic.
My belief is that your consciousness is in your soul.
Well, your belief is wrong. You have no demonstration that a soul exists, or that it has capabilities to have something in it, and that one of those things is consciousness. Though, like most things in this video, I would need to know what you mean by soul.
I've said before that the religious concept of the soul is the single most obviously dead topic that religions could ever raise.
And that your consciousness is in the new matter because that's where your soul is.
Answer your same questions replacing consciousness with soul. How do we determine where a soul is? Does a soul move with molecules? How many molecules would we need to move before a soul goes with it? If we take you apart and put you physically back together again, would your soul still be there, or would it float on up to heaven?
Regardless of how likely you think my answer is, at least it is logically coherent.
Sure. However, I use the same logic as your answer, except you add something to yours to try to justify it while I don't. Mine is entirely natural and even demonstrable. I guess you use magic up to this point, so why not keep using it?
There is no logically coherent answer under atheism.
I think I gave a pretty coherent answer.
Impossible will always be better than impossible.
Demonstrate that it is even possible for a soul to exist, since they don't, because again...
The soul is the single most dead concept in all of theology. Given what we know about who we are, there are plenty of claims that religions make that are untestable and unfalsifiable. And the one that comes the closest to being falsifiable is the notion of a soul. And to whatever extent we can test and investigate it, it is just debunked.
It is possible that it doesn't, and you know what that means.
When you accept that there must be more than the physical world, suddenly religion should look a lot more appealing.
When you accept that your God doesn't exist and therefore your religion is wrong, then materialism should look a lot more appealing.
Now, if any of this had any impact on you, I would suggest that you try reading the first 4 chapters in the New Testament of the Bible, called the Gospel. These are chapters Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Read those. Try going to a church sermon. Make sure it's a church that actually preaches the Bible. Thank you for listening.
If you accept what this guy says, then you should read a book from my mythology and then go listen to other people tell you ghost stories about things we know didn't happen. And that's all for his video. This was a long one, so let's try to TLDR it. Atheism is the same as physicalism or materialism, which means that the supernatural doesn't exist. We will experience future events in a physical body. From there, if materialism, then replacing one molecule with another of the exact same molecule will have no effect on the object. Breaking things down to their molecular components and then reassembling them again will have no effect on the thing. You prefer to have a different being shot rather than yourself. Then, you're still the same being even if your molecular configuration is copied and recreated somewhere else. If we replace all of your molecules one by one and build a body with the other, consciousness either moves to a new body of the same molecules or it doesn't. If you accept all of this, then you hold a contradictory belief. He ends on, "We have a soul, and no, I won't be explaining any further." That's it for this one. What did you think? Do you think we have a soul that stays tethered to our physical body? Or do you think that the existence of consciousness is not necessarily incompatible with materialism? Let me know in the comments below. I was more frustrated with his definitions than anything else here. He clearly has a misunderstanding of what atheism entails. Maybe he has never talked to an atheist about this before. I'm likely a physicalist of some kind, but I'm not sure. I haven't really specifically investigated this aspect of my beliefs, but I am constantly evaluating. Though, the materialization of the like button demonstrates that materialism is not necessarily incompatible with this video, materially. When we think about our stream of consciousness, it shows that the subscribe button is indeed something we interact with in the physical world. Special thanks goes to Long-Haired Lefty and Jammin' Bomb, who demonstrate that my Patreon is an emergent property of my channel. If you'd like to emerge from the dark, then you can join them for as low as $1 a month at patreon.com/DarkOfAllTrades. And as always, keep learning.